program. My name is Will Brummett, and I have the absolute honor and joy of getting to be the student engagement manager here at Campus Compact. That means I get to work alongside some of our best and brightest student change makers across the country within the Campus Compact network and family. And so I'm really grateful for you all giving the gift of your time and attention here today, particularly in these hot summer months. And so I hope today serves as a time just to slow down and reflect and listen to some wonderful students, but also hopefully, like me, will feel some hope around the great work that young people and student change makers are actually making every single day. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to first just sort of start us off with a quick grounding and just sort of tell you that we will not, excuse me, we would not be here without the excellent support of our partners with the Allstate Foundation. The Allstate Foundation is really pioneering the investment and advancement of youth empowerment, but also youth leadership and student voice and student leadership. And so they are the ones who sort of gave us these initial funds to try out this mini grant program with our Newman Civic Fellows. And so all the products you're going to hear out today, all the wonderful things that the students did, were really made possible by the continued partnership and support of the Allstate Foundation, supporting our Newman Civic Fellows, recognizing that they're not just the leaders of tomorrow, but they are already the leaders of today in their own communities. So I just want to say a personal thank you to the Allstate Foundation for all they allowed these great students to do through this work. I want to give a brief overview of the Newman Civic Fellowship Program for those who maybe are not familiar in terms of like, what is a Newman Civic Fellow? Who are these students? These students are really remarkable. The Newman Civic Fellowship Program was actually created in honor of Frank Newman, who was a co-founder of Campus Compact and really deeply believed in the power of student leadership and student voice. And so in his memory, we created a year-long fellowship that basically provides students from all across the country, any student who's a part of a Campus Compact school could be potentially nominated. And each university nominates one outstanding leader who comes together for a year-long fellowship experience. And they have annual convenings that we provide them, monthly training and networking sessions, a mentorship program where they meet with a local mentor 4 times throughout the year. And then they also have a series of different professional development opportunities to prepare them for what's next after their Newman year or even after graduation. The fellowship recognizes and really supports all types of community committed students. So for some schools, that means that their student they recognize or they nominate is a student who's doing great direct service, working in a local nonprofit. Other schools nominate students who are doing great community engaged research or philanthropy work. It's really recognizing students who just ultimately are all committed to really tackling the sort of sticky or difficult challenges that their local communities are facing, whether it be on their campus, in the local community, or even in the global community. Newmans are really come in all sort of backgrounds, interest levels, shapes, and sizes. Our cohort this year, our 23-24 cohort, for instance, actually had Newmans ranging in ages from 9 to 57. They're all different races, gender, sexual orientations, economic statuses, and they're from literally all parts of the country. We had 38 different states represented last year, and we'll have 38 different states represented in the incoming class as well. The only requirement for Newmans, if you're interested in this program or if your school is a Campus Compact member but haven't yet to nominate, or you maybe think about wanting to do it, the only requirement is that you're a community committed student and that they have 1 year left of eligibility. So that means that they're either going into their rising senior year, or if at a 2-year university and they're transferring to a 4-year, that's also okay. The only time we typically accept students who are just graduated or won't just finish the undergrad is if they're going straight into a graduate program at the university. We do allow students, though, if they are finishing at one institution and transferring to another institution, to actually still be nominated if you want to. They just represent the school that they just graduated from that nominated them. So for particularly our 2-year institutions or students who are going to grad programs, you still can nominate them, but they won't nominate this. They don't have to go, the next school they're transferring to doesn't have to be a compact school to be nominated. The only requirement is that the nominating school be a Campus Compact member for that. So at the end, we're going to give you some opportunities to learn more about the program, but really, really encourage you, if you're a Campus Compact member and you don't have a Newman for next year, please reach out to us. We actually have a special opportunity for a few more folks to be added for next year's cohort. Or if you're not sure about joining Campus Compact, you're like, is it worth sort of the membership or what does that look like? We love to tell you more about the student side specifically and all the different benefits that not only Newmans, but really a lot of students on your campus can grow from. So I want to talk to a little bit again about the mini grant program and what sort of the vision of this was. When we were sort of originally setting this off and trying this out this year, we had three sort of main pillars. The first was obviously we wanted to make community impact. We wanted to impact communities, local communities, national communities, global communities, however the student leader defined community all across the country. But we also wanted to make sure we really are investing in student leadership because too often students are maybe working on a project or they were given the opportunity to work with a nonprofit leader who has the grant, but very rarely are they trusted with actually the funds themselves to manage, to oversee, to see a product from start to finish. And then lastly, we really wanted this to be a part for education and reflection, recognizing that all of our students, as we've said, are leaders of today and not just tomorrow. We also wanted them to learn from this experience as it prepares them for whatever field they're going into. So the specifics of the program, in terms of what it actually looked like on paper, in sort of the framework, was that all Civic Fellows could apply for a grant between $500 to $1,500, or they could apply for a joint project of up to $3,000 with another Newman. All the projects had to be completed by June 30th of this year, so they were awarded in late fall and they had to be completed in the spring semester. And the products could be doing multiple things. We sort of gave them a broad sort of brush of options this first year. So it could be either enhancing current work, whether they wanted to add something on to the local nonprofit work they're already doing, or increase the opportunity to further expand their local research, whatever it may be. Or it could be starting a new innovative idea. So if the Newman had a really great idea that like, hey, this would really enhance our access and equity as we serve students on campus and also local community residents. Or hey, I want to start a new nonprofit because there's no other nonprofit meeting that need in my community. This sort of served as seed money for that. So as we mentioned, students were allowed to choose really their issue area they wanted to tackle, as well as their method of change. So you're going to hear that today, that no two products were exactly alike. They all chose different sort of tactics, whether it be hosting a conference, investing in a local entity, doing something, a one-time event or an ongoing event. They all sort of got to choose based on their own creativity and the community needs near them. All Newmans who did receive a grant received grant writing training prior to applying, and then those who were selected received monthly trainings in project planning, budget management, evaluation and assessment, and storytelling, which is what leads us to you today. The final requirement is that all Newmans were required to submit a final report, so to tell us how they spent their funds, what they grew from the product, what the outcomes, but then also do a final presentation, which you're going to hear from 4 outstanding leaders today on that. So with that, a broad overview of the program is basically this year we awarded 30 different mini grant winners, 30 different Newman Fellows from across the country. We awarded over $47,000 in direct grants to those students. It was 25 different states and 26 different issue areas were actually funded. And as I mentioned, this is the first annual time we've done this, but we plan on doing this for future years and future Newmans as well, including this incoming class for next year. All right. So that's enough for me, but now I want to pass it along to the wonderful students who are going to be presenting today. So this 4 speakers we're going to showcase today. We're first going to start with Cherin Russell. Cherin is a remarkable student at the University of Kansas who used her mini grant program to expand and help the university and the greater community rethink accessibility and how people learn and grow, particularly specifically in the University of Kansas area. Then we're going to go to Mikayla Paquette. Mikayla did an awesome job as a student athlete herself and trying to expand her love for basketball and give it to the local community to develop social emotional learning, leadership skills, and things for youth as well. We're then going to go to Abigail Faris at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. And Abigail's going to talk about a really cool initial summit idea that Abigail really planned and dreamed up from the beginning and did at UNO. And it had some really remarkable outcomes. And then lastly, we're going to Jessika Crockett-Murphy, who's going to talk about how she used Stonehill's deep religious but also communal commitment and found a way to use the mini grant money to sort of enhance the way they do interfaith work at Stonehill, but also actually get their hands literally dirty in the dirt there around helping use a local farm to enhance their work they're doing. So those are our 4 remarkable students. What we're going to do is going to give each student their time. And then at the end, if you have questions or throughout, if you have questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can drop in a question and we'll make sure Morgan or I ask it if we get time at the end. So with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to go ahead and call to the front Cherin. And Cherin, whenever you are ready, you may start to present. Awesome. We can see your screen perfectly, and you're muted right now.
There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, hi. My name is Cherin Russell, and like Will was saying, I'm from the University of Kansas, and I was fortunate over the spring to be able to work on a project which I coined accessibility for all. Okay. And to just give a little bit of tidbits about me, I'm from Lawrence, Kansas, which is where the University of Kansas is actually located. And I'm a recent graduate. I received a Bachelor of Arts in English and then also minored in environmental studies. And I will be returning in the fall to receive my master's to hopefully work on some environmental advocacy, rhetoric stuff, and help nonprofits in the US. And as a fellow, I was really excited to receive one of the mini grant for $1,000. And what I really focus on is purchasing accessibility tools and devices for our students and our peer educators, which are our student workers, and our Wingspan, which is Center of Learning and Writing Support. So we really house most of all of our support for our campus in the center. And how this really came about is the fact that I spent a few semesters in leadership roles as a tutor and a mentor, which then followed up with an internship that I got accepted for to really speak to students about accessibility or about social emotional skills. And I'm someone that's openly disabled myself with neurodivergency and physical illness such as fibromyalgia. And so I knew a little bit of the students I'm working with that have disabilities, and that's kind of how this project came to be. Even though I'm mostly just purchasing items, I knew that I really wanted to cater this around students. So I first focused on making an initial purchasing list, and it really had more focus on what you would expect, like audio, motor issues, visual, and I still received items of that sort. But we have around 2,200 students that come and go in user centers for free. And of that, we have 150 of our peer educators. So those are our tutors, our peer academic coaches, our writing consultants, and our supplemental instructors. And they kind of help out with teachers. And I worked with the Wingspan staff to really evaluate what those needs are for both our peer educators and our students. And then also worked with the Wingspan, who was also already making efforts for universal design expansion. So that means making the space really personalized for those who need it than just one type of one size fits all. And then once we got all of the feedback back, I revised the list according to it. And that's kind of how the process came to be. Now, one of the challenges that I wasn't exactly prepared, or I wasn't expecting, I should say, is how to navigate the grant process. So, for instance, this grant ended up, I believe, going through 4 different offices or departments before we really figured out how to create an account for it. Um, but it was also a really interesting experience because you kind of saw how these offices kind of harmonized in finding a way to make this account and did it in a way that was so helpful and made it easier for me than what I expected it to be. And I also learned some of the process of how KU works as in purchasing. So we have tax exempt suppliers that we normally go through. So I have to make sure that if I'm buying things, am I getting the same amount and the same cost? And so that was something to figure out. And then, but trying to evaluate needs means talking about these needs, and that means approaching really sensitive conversations. And my work in English is really doing approachable work, approachable rhetoric, how to make things approachable. And that was something I knew I was going to have to really work on. And then that also includes collecting feedback. How do I collect feedback from such a large number of students, especially when we cannot ask about their disabilities or if they have any? But one of the big things I think that happened with this grant is it ended up widening what I considered and what I think other people considered accessibility. And one of those main things was about pain. And I'm a little bit ashamed to say it because I have a pain disorder, I advocate for it. But it never occurred to me to think about the fact that students around me could be in really deep pain, and that can be debilitating, be disruptive just as much as a motor or visual issue. And hearing the peer educator struggles, most of the focus first was on our students coming into the center and helping our peer educators learn how to speak about those and offer those tools. And then realizing that a lot of our peer educators fit in that same group and need those same tools and have those same struggles. And then it was cool to be able to do this while seeing a center really care for changing. So it wasn't just that they were supporting me, they wanted to go beyond and also shape what I wasn't already doing. And so that was a really cool change that occurred. And so the outcome here is I had a new purchasing list. I have a few pictures above. You can see I've done a little bit more fidgeting and attention deficit items. You'll see that I have page magnifiers and things that still help in the way that we expected. I have a digital reading pen coming. It's probably the most expensive purchase I've made. And I believe it's on its way if it's not already here. But the last to the right picture is actually a really important one. This is a lot of items we use for pain. So I found out that there's people that also have sensitivity to cold, and we have really cold room a lot. So I have heating blankets coming. I have a heating pad, and we are 3 hours away from like the pollen or the pollen capital of the US, particularly like Wichita. So allergies, inflammation is very common. So I have like ice packs and things that will be used. Oh, and I also received feedback from probably over 100 students. I did a lot of trainings with students and our peer educators, so I got a lot of feedback that way. And then I was able to present with my supervisor at the College Reading and Learning Association conference, where I spoke about social emotional needs, but this had a big impact about what it is we were doing and that accessibility broadening. When I first created this grant and wanted to do it, it had more of a personal, like, of course I wanted to help students, but it was also could I actually undertake something like this when I have my own health challenges that can be harsh? And, I wanted to also expand being a grant writer because that was something I was really starting to love. But it really did change and become about the students almost right away. And one of the probably most prominent things I heard was, thank you for trying to help. Even if it doesn't help me personally, I feel like I'm being heard and helped. And it gave me a little bit of pause. I'm a mentor, so I know that being heard helps, but I wasn't expecting to hear that so much. And so being heard is just as helpful as being helped is really what I've learned. And then also about that pain being part of the conversation. I say that tentatively because what you go through is yours and you don't have to share that. But sharing mine helped people share theirs, and then we could actually counter those needs. And so that's something I took from it. And then one of the most heartwarming things is students being inspired. So if students inspired to make different presentations and try to do student conferences and look at different mini grant options. It's an honor, but yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to show. You can be disabled, you can have struggles, you can be poor, you can be a first gen, and still be a change maker. And so the next steps for this, I will not be able to work at the center, but they're going to work on implementing these new items. We already have a quiet room that they can choose from a software that we use. So we're hoping to see how we can implement that. We're also they're going to continue staff trainings around all universal design and learning and these accessibility tools, supplies, conversations, how to facilitate them. They're also going to receive and revisit student feedback, so not relying on feedback that was 5 years ago or 10 years ago that should be revised because your students are coming in and those needs are different each time. And then partnering a little bit more with our Student Access Center. They are the ones that already work with if you have accessibility needs or need accommodations, but they don't get to do as much when it comes to the learning of like tutoring or doing study skills. So doing a little bit more partnership is something we're looking at. I think they've already really started that. So overall, I'm just very thankful, and I have a few people to thank. I definitely have to thank the Wingspan staff, especially Adam Hampton and Casey Reed, that really, really believed in me. All the students and peer educators that spoke with me, Dr. Philip Drake, who's been my mentor for so many things, including this project, and then Kate Kemper, who worked her butt off to get this grant going with the Center for Service Learning. She worked hard. And then obviously the Office of Fellowships, the Office of Research, and then my McNair Scholars mentors who didn't even have much of a part, but just believed in me and gave me that support. And then overall, I have to thank the All-State Foundation and Campus Compact. I could not have done this without you. And I feel like not only were we successful, I think we are going to facilitate success in the future. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Cherin. That was really great. And I just love your work of how you took your own personal story, your own personal challenges, and then you just expand the idea of accessibility for everyone on your campus and all the folks getting educated in your local community. Because too often we create these spaces and just expect people to adapt. But I love how you made the space for the students. It's beautiful. All right, next up, we're going to go to Mikayla. Mikayla is at Tufts University, and we're going to talk about Mikayla's really, really cool, unique project called, well, I'll let Mikayla tell you about it, but I'm just really pumped about it. Mikayla, whenever you're ready, you can come on in. Awesome, Mikayla, we can see your screen. Great.
All right, awesome.
You're good to go.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to come listen to myself and these other wonderful fellows. So I titled my presentation More Than a Game, and hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will understand why basketball is way, way more than a game for me. So I am a rising senior at Tufts University. I'm majoring in sociology and civic studies. And I also play basketball at Tufts, and I'm a forward. So my experience with basketball and my studies in sociology and civic engagement is kind of what allowed me to be like, okay, I can find an intersection between all of my passions, between civic engagement and basketball. And that's how the Community Hoops Camp came to be. And what's really special to me about Community Hoops is that it's not just a one-off project. I have, really felt that this is something that can be continued. And so our mission at Community Hoops is to empower the next generation of hoopers through basketball skill development, mentorship, and civic awareness. And like I said before, I couldn't imagine just playing one game of basketball. So this is kind of a way to make sure that it's continued. And so the process of getting to this camp that happened in April was a long one for sure. I really, in the beginning, had all these really big ideas and thought that I could get everything done, and that simply wasn't the case. But what I realized was with my different hands in different communities on Tufts campus, I was able to lay a good foundation of relationships and experiences. And that kind of allowed me to not only host the camp at Tufts, but to have coaches that were my teammates and on the men's team as well. So, one part of my process was that a good foundation can only be set with good and focused intentions. These intentions for me were to have a space where kids could come and play, but also understand that basketball is more than a game. It's not just something that they come into the gym and do. It is something that can be taken into their own lives. And also that our communities are incredibly intertwined. And so one of my favorite words is interconnectedness. And I think finding all of these ways to bring people together has always been a passion of mine. And so this camp was a great example. And I'm very, very excited to continue doing that. And then also just being comfortable waiting and asking for help. I think, as an athlete, feedback is constant. And I think being able to take that and run with it has been a great skill I've learned. But something that the downside of that is I don't like waiting. I don't like being told like not today, or, it's going to take a week or something like that. So getting comfortable waiting and being patient was also a huge part of my process. And so the camp went really, really well. And even more than that, we were able to raise about $17,000 to go towards not only this camp, but future camps and future programs that I'm hoping to run. But for this camp specifically, we engaged 40 kids from the area, aged 8 to 14. And I think there were a couple of 6 and 7-year-old siblings that, trickled in along the way. And then we were also able to have a bunch of my teammates there as well as coaches. And that was really, really impactful for me just to see my teammates and friends on the men's team be able to interact with kids through this game that we play together every single day. And for a lot of my teammates, this was their first time coaching. So to be able to give them that opportunity was really, really special to me. And then also, we had this collaboration with Artists for Humanity, and I titled it the 94-Foot Project, and I'll give you guys a sneak peek of what that looks like in a second. But it was a really, really interesting collaboration for me because it intertwined my, visions of being an artist when I was younger, and I love writing poetry now. So to be able to connect that artistic expression with my expression through basketball was really, really important. So right here we have the design for the court. And so the title of the project is the 94-foot project. And if you do not know, a basketball court is 94 feet long. And so I wanted the project to kind of extract basketball from it, like the game specifically, and be this space that we play the game on is more important and is kind of this common ground that we can all find together. And as you can see, there's some fire and that around the 3-point line, which is one of my favorite spots to shoot from. And, it's also to symbolize the rising sun and the nature that, we can rise and fall and we'll always kind of rise again. So another notion of kind of empowerment. And then we have some wings, which is just to symbolizing kind of movement. And that, basketball kind of feels like flight. If it's like we're in our element, it's like a superpower. And then to have a strong ode to the Medford community, which is where this court will be done at Tufts Park in Medford, Massachusetts. We have the zip code on it, which will be a staple of hopefully continued 94-foot projects. And then also a little blue around the basketball in the middle, and that's signifying the Mystic Lake and the attachment to water in this area. So it was really, really impactful to create something with the teens from Artists for Humanity. And so I'm really, really excited. I hope you all will stay tuned on the installation of that in the fall. So another step that we're kind of taking right now, which is really exciting, is summer camps. So continuing doing these camps and clinics for kids, and also making sure that we can do private individual lessons as well, and small group lessons. So really trying to meet kids where they are and the needs of the kids and their families, to try and make sure that we can bring basketball to as many people as possible and kind of start small and hopefully expand very, very soon. And also expanding the Hoops Journal, which to me is one of my favorite things that I think I've come up with. It's kind of a basketball handbook and journal for kids. I've really found that growing up, having a journal was something that I wasn't necessarily taught to do, but once I started doing it, it was really, really impactful. I have, several scattered around my room. I have one in my basketball bag and my school bag. And so it's something that's really important to me. And I think that it's taught me a lot. So to try and express that to my community and other kids in a way that could be more digestible, having them be like, oh yeah, this is about basketball. We have basketball workouts, we have habit trackers and basketball stickers and stuff like that. So that's something that I'm really excited about working on and expanding. But I think in totality, this experience has been incredibly life-changing. This picture is of me at the NESCAC Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Conference earlier this year. And it was one of the first times where I could really voice the impact of civic engagement and community engagement on my own life and how I think it can impact the lives of the people around me. So it was cool to kind of bring them this project that I've been working on and just talk about my experience as an athlete and as a change maker as well. And just to leave you all with some, little tidbits that I've gone from along the way is that with a dream and a drive, you can make your ideas a reality. I never thought that I would be speaking here today or saying that I'm, starting a nonprofit organization. So that dream and drive is really, really important. And then also that basketball is not only a game, but a tool. Like I said before, it's more than a game, and it can be used to create change and impact lives. And partnerships matter. Like, we cannot do this alone, and it's really important to reach out and ask for help and ask for advice. I'm so honored to be able to receive the grant from the All-State Foundation and the Campus Compact. And, that partnership is what planted this seed and allowed me to do what I'm doing now. And then finally, I gained a lot of confidence in myself as a leader, as a coach, organizer, and now a founder. So I think it's just really interesting that I was able to connect every little passion that I have together and to make a little bit of good in this world. So I just want to thank everybody at Newman and thank everybody at Allstate for allowing me to have this opportunity. So thank you so much.
Awesome, Mikayla. Just continued inspiration by you that you're to me, like, you're the ideal student athlete. Like, you're more than an athlete, you're more than a student, but just the way you've incorporated all of this is just really beautiful. And I'm just really, really proud of all that you've done. Mikayla is just a leader on the court, off the court, everywhere. But also don't play Mikayla on one-on-one because you will lose. As I just know. Okay. All right. So next we're going to go up to Abigail Faris, and Abigail is at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. He's going to talk about this really great work. I also want to really appreciate Abigail because Abigail flew all the way across the world to come back to present today from some well-deserved summer trip. So Abigail, thank you so much for being back in the stateside to present to us, and I'll pin you and bring you to the front.
Amazing, thank you. I'm gonna share my screen.
All right, now we see part of it and we see an adorable picture. Okay. Yeah, if you're good to go, you're good to go. We see your screen.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, hi all, my name is Abigail or Abby Faris. I am a student at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I am a rising senior studying political science and international studies with minors in communication and sustainability. I am currently a student worker at the Maverick Food Pantry, which is our campus food pantry providing food and basic needs to students, staff, and faculty at UNO, as well as students at our medical center of UNMC and College of St. Mary's. So my project is the Fueling Future Student Support Summit. Me and my team at the food pantry created this summit as a way to connect and educate the broader Nebraska community in a whole about basic needs for students. So what is the Fueling Future Summit? We created this summit because me and my team established the Nebraska Campus Pantry Coalition, connecting all campus pantries across Nebraska. So we thought this summit would be a great way to connect everyone in person rather than just online, as it's really difficult to travel and meet once a month to talk about all of the upcoming things. Currently, we're working on a bill, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And so this was a great way to do that. So we extended invites to all of these campus pantries along with any community organizers or people from the community who just want to learn about how they can support students' basic needs. And so the project goals was that by combining visions from the 2023 to 2024 Newman Civic Convening in Boston, I used some of the ideas that you guys did to create this summit. We hosted it in collaboration with Swipe Out Hunger, which helps to partner with campus pantries and provide Swipe Out Bucks, I think is what it's called. And they helped us to create this because they've helped host other similar summits in many other campuses. So we're hoping that this summit will not be the last in the state of Nebraska, but it was the first, so that we can continue this campus tradition to create more understanding and develop all of these ideas across to different communities. I reached out and organized this by connecting with our campus pantry connections. So we only like really learned about what Omaha and some of the other places in Omaha have done to provide these resources. But I would really love to learn about Lincoln and Kearney and Cherin and what they do for that. So yeah, our mission was creating this summit in hopes that we can educate campuses. The summit was also created as a way to promote things that discuss the LR 333 bill, which will be an interim study first, learning about the needs for students' basic needs on campuses to determine if a hunger-free campus bill, which Swipe Out Hunger has helped to propose in a bunch of different states. Hopefully that will be passed in the legislature in the next few years. But the NPCC is working on figuring that out. So the summit day, I'm trying to hide my little screen thing. Okay, so the summit day, we invited everyone in person, online, trying to create accessibility so people can come if they would like to in person and connect. I think we had about 25 to 35 people who showed up in person, over 60 people registered for the actual summit itself, which for the first summit, I think was a good success for us. We had two sets of panels, one talking about basic needs and extending all across a bunch of different basic needs, like transportation, food, clothing, housing. And then we talked specifically on food insecurity. We also had some breakout sessions that discussed other things relating to what would help provide better support for campuses, like sustainability and like advocacy, a bunch of different things. I think we had like 4 or 5 breakout sessions. So the steps to summit success was us creating connections with all of the individuals who attended the summit, as well as the community partners. We designed and collaborated to create sessions and then promotional materials and day of goodies. The mini grant provided us these resources so that we could practice what we preach. We provided lunch and breakfast for everyone, so no one was going hungry throughout the day. We had fidgets and stress toys so people could use those. That was part of like the Boston convening with Campus Compact. I loved that, and so we added that in. We had little stickers, which we continue to have a supply of those, and everyone loves our stickers that talk about how basic needs is needs for all and good steps to success in learning. And then I had some leftovers funds that we used to create 2 basic needs goodie bags. That's in the picture up at the top. We set aside some funds in order for people to be able to travel in person if they needed reimbursement for gas. No one ended up using that, so I will be using my leftover funds to create more of these basic need bags for the fall for anyone who would like to do some giveaways so that people can get a good start to their first year of education. Some learning lessons. Procrastination is a big thing. I'm sure every student has that. We're all tackling learning and usually working and all of the other things. And so sometimes part of the summit things got pushed to the back burner while I was working on other projects. But then like taking it one step at a time and jumping through each of the individual hoops. My team really helped me with that in supporting me and making sure that I stayed on track. And again, collaboration and teamwork, it's the best thing to be able to learn that and how you work with others, as well as like the community partners that I had to reach out to. Learning how to collaborate with them was one of my big steps in success. Some of the summit setbacks were access to the mini grant. For some reason, it just wasn't working for a while. We got it eventually. So everything was all good with that. And then scheduling conflicts when I was setting up all of the sessions and making sure that people could making sure that people could come on time, or like trying to, because these community partners are so engaged in the community, everyone's really busy. And so figuring that out was a little bit of a setback, but it happened in the end. And then the last one was burnout. At the very end of this project, as fulfilling as it was, I was tired. So just learning how to deal with that with myself and being able to take a step back and focus on my own mental health in figuring out after this. Yeah, I think that was a good thing and a good personal growth moment. So moving forward, we're hoping that this will be introduced by another campus pantry connection across Nebraska. Because I have set up how this was arranged, I think it would be a lot easier for someone to promote this and create it in their own campus. I would love to help and create this moving forward for them as well. I am also a forensics student, so I competitively speak across the country. So I will be using this summit that I was able to create a persuasive speech on why people should be focusing on students' basic needs and how they can create their own summit, just like this one, to promote that across the country. Personal growth, creating and managing this summit really allowed me to create connections in a way that I would have been scared to before. It really helped me to learn time management skills, conflict resolution, and to manage my well-being under pressure. The summit was one of my first real experiences in working in a non-hands-on, like not moving cans across the pantry or whatever, way to create change. I learned how to set personal boundaries for myself by not overextending and being able to delegate tasks when I felt overwhelmed. I could not have done this without my team at the MFP who had my back the whole time. And then some other cute photos from the summit. We had someone taking photos the whole time, and so it's always good to look back on those. And then if you would like to talk basic needs after this, please reach out to me. I'd love to connect with anyone who would like to chat more about this and the project. If you're interested in creating a similar summit, love to work with you. I will be in AmeriCorps Vista for the pantry this next year, and so I will be doing a lot more of the same thing. So please reach out, and I'm sure we'll extend any of that as well. Thank you.
Awesome job, Abby. I love how much you were so reflective in that and gave people sort of a peek behind the curtain of all the different challenges you all do face as students, of like you're balancing different requirements, and procrastination is real and burnout is real, but then you found a way to still tap into your own power and build a coalition and try something new that I think is going to set a really powerful precedent. And student needs is a huge issue across the country. I really encourage anyone who's not familiar with it, please reach out to Abby. We'll provide some information and contact information and follow-up emails, but it's a huge need because it's not just our local community members who often are students who are having those needs, but also students from all across the country for within that. All right, thanks so much, Abby, for again your presentation and your work. Lastly, we're going to go to Jessika Crockett-Murphy at Stonehill College. Jessika is a Newman Fellow as well as a Student Design Fellow for us at Campus Compact. And Jessica is going to talk about her really cool idea and the different twists and turns it took to sort of find this intersection between faith, interfaith, community commitment, but also how can we sort of combine those things. So Jessika, I'm going to pin you, bring you to the front, and welcome you to present.
All right, perfect. Let me get my screen going for y'all. All right, and throw that into the presentation, and everyone should be able to hear me all right?
Yep, you're
Perfect.
good. Everything is great.
All right. Thank you all so much for having me here. This has been such an amazing project and process, and I'll get into it a little bit more about how transformative and really experientially impactful it was for me. As Will said, my name is Jessika Crockett-Murphy. I am a very recent grad of Stonehill College in Easton, Massachusetts. I studied political science and religious studies, and I minored in ethical leadership. And while I was there, I served as the Newman Civic Fellow for one of the years and was able to get this amazing grant for interfaith expansion and collaboration on campus. So Stonehill College, it is a Catholic school. It's founded by the Congregation of Holy Cross. So if you know Notre Dame, that's one of our sister schools. So with this project, as a whole, the foundation was really trying to bring more interfaith support and access to campus. Stonehill already does a phenomenal job with having interfaith prayer spaces and van usage for students. However, we wanted to look at what we could even be doing better. And what we came up with was finding a community in our aspect of communion in the Catholic tradition and a revitalization of our vineyard and an additional wheat field. So this project was inspired by my time working at our farm. We have about a 2-acre farm on campus right across the street that grows a variety of fruits and veggies to be donated or sold at a very high discount in neighboring communities in need. We border Brockton, Easton, and Stoughton, which a lot of those have some areas that are facing some sort of food insecurity or food injustice. So the mission of that farm is to just provide support and alleviate any distress that we can in those areas. Alongside the farm, there actually used to be a very small vineyard that was used by some of our classes and community partners to grow both table grapes and wine grapes. So it was just grapes for normal consumption and then grapes that would be pressed and processed into wine to be made for some of the special masses we have at Stonehill. So this could be our baccalaureate mass, our beginning of the year mass, something like that. It was a super great opportunity for students, and a lot of times they really, really did love getting to learn about that process. However, during COVID, a little bit of a change in management and some pretty bad weather kind of wrecked the vineyard, and we lost that opportunity. So we wanted to bring it back to life in a much bigger and better way. Now, the process of this was kind of the most in-depth part, especially on this project, because this was not the original plan. I was looking at some sort of interfaith space for campus, for students and the community. It originally began as wanting to build an on-campus labyrinth outside, so a meditative walk space. And we kept hitting a lot of snags with that, whether it be a miscommunication, we had some timeline issues, needing to get support and clearance from certain people on campus, funding, everything like that, if anything would have to be subsidized. So that first idea actually ended up getting kind of shot down after I'd gotten the grant. Thankfully, with talking with Will and Morgan, helping me kind of pivot, we looked at other things on campus that we could do, but still keeping that main mission of that interfaith expansion on campus. We looked at building an interfaith chapel, looked at adding additional items to our rooms that we currently have, or even updating the sensory garden on campus. However, a lot of those obstacles still appeared in terms of using spaces to become something different. Now, with the vineyard, that was something that was already pre-established and was something that a lot of students had been talking about missing. We had alumni talking about their class where they all took off their shoes and washed their feet and were able to crush grapes to become wine. And it was a really, important aspect of the kind of experiential learning Stonehill has. So with that route into the interfaith support and with a lot of collaboration with my core team folks on campus, we looked at trying to reimagine what that vineyard was and how we could use this grant to make it even better and more impactful than before. So far we have been able to look at the space and kind of see what is feasible and usable. And this is a little bit of a front picture of what we're looking at. If you see some of those posts in the background, those were the original posts that the wine grapes were trellised on before all of the storms. A lot of them have been torn down, have broken, or are damaged. So even though the physical aspect of the project has been delayed a bit, we are starting to be able to rebuild these areas and reimagine what they can be. We will be adding in a winter wheat field into that main front patch that you see, which is wheat that is able to withstand the kind of frigid temperatures of winter. So we can then make sure that that is a constant thing that is growing, because with some plants we can only have them during certain times of the year. And then we're also going to have table grapes and wine grapes. Now, while this is rooted in the Catholic practice of Mass and communion, we wanted it to be accessible for all people. So especially adding in the ability to use the table grapes, or to you make bread or other baked goods with the flour that comes from the wheat. We're going to be providing a space for folks to be able to eat together, drink together in a more casual and leisurely setting. Alongside this, there was no sort of area at the vineyard that gave people a chance to really reflect and sit on the process that they were, experiencing and what they were being able to do. So we are adding in these 2 benches that actually fold out the tops into a picnic table. So students can go and harvest, they can sit and they can start processing things, and they can really just take a moment to breathe and look at what they've been able to do. It's really important to try to reconnect with the process of how our food comes to be on our plate. And it's something that a lot of people are fairly disconnected from at this point, because you pick it up from the store and then you come back. So the ability to come together as a group to build that community and to engage in something that connects all of us, which is eating and drinking and, the act of like table fellowship, is a really important aspect of this program and project. In my own experience with sharing meals with folks that we have all put in the effort of making together, it's an extremely intimate space where people can really think about how they go about their daily lives and miss these little moments. So a lot of it is just taking that time to slow down, be with one another, and be able to make something out of what seems like nothing. So we're super excited to add into that the benches and the winter wheat field, because that's just going to expand what the vineyard's able to do even more. Our next steps are rebuilding and replacing the posts and trellising any remaining live grapevines. If you see in that bottom picture, those little kind of clusters of bulbs, those are grapes that are still holding on. And honestly, when I found those, it really just made me see the resilience of this project and be able to, find some inspiration in that. So I am really excited that we still have a few live vines that we're going to be able to bring back to life and to harvest. The reflective space will be added so folks can engage in talking over the harvesting and process making aspects. So that is a great addition to this that we're all super, super excited about. And our goal is to continue to have classes take the main part of this aspect, because it is both educational and kind of communal. But we also are going to be inviting community partners to help with some of the winemaking process, the milling of the flour, and all the harvesting. So it's going to be something that we're going to be able to invite off-campus places of worship, off-campus volunteer organizations to be able to come together, get your hands dirty, and really see how this is possible. We're hoping that this will bring a lot more attention to local homesteading and farming, and people realizing that if I want to make more of my own food, I can plant this stuff and it will be able to, thrive in this environment. I don't have to wait for it to get shipped from, a farm in another state. So it's environmentally conscious in that aspect. So we're hoping that it'll help advertise what the farm does so we can share our mission with a larger community. Just to wrap up for my own personal growth, I will say that it was a very insightful process, and it showed me a lot of the nitty-gritty details in project work in higher ed. That was me on one of the days that I was just helping out at the farm, and we were kind of talking about the process. With the need to shift the focus so much, a lot of stress and worry was coming from it, but being able to root myself in the one basic goal of just interfaith access, whatever we were doing, it had to have that at its core. It made sure I never had to get too lost from what I was wanting to accomplish, and I could navigate it better because I knew what our focal point was. I spoke with some colleagues during this process, and they actually expressed that this is very similar to what they've seen in the past. Very rarely do these projects get completed in the exact same way that they were initially planned. So it showed a realistic experience that I might have as I hope to go into higher education. I really did love this experience, even with all the stress. I'm very happy with the outcome we got to, and I was very grateful being able to be so fluid in this growth and finding something that, a lot of people might not have thought to do. It was something that had been down for a while, but now we're glad to be able to focus on it and bring it back to life and to get that opportunity. So we're super excited about what this is going to offer to campus, to our community partners, to all of our students. And we're getting into it now with getting the benches in and getting everything trellised up. So it's also really nice, not only in the outcome of getting to work together, but even in the process of setting everything back up. It's helping a lot of us kind of de-stress and get out of the office, get outside, and really get to work together. That's really all I have on this. I just wanted to thank everyone who has been supportive in this process. A huge thank you to the Allstate Foundation for being able to fund this, and especially to Morgan and Will, who got to hear me say, okay, I'm changing the idea one more time, and just gave me such unending support in this and helping to keep me from getting a little too frazzled. And all of my peers, my mentors, my colleagues on campus who helped me find this were such great helps. And I really am just so glad I got to have this experience. So thank you all.
Thanks so much, Jessika. Yeah, I love that where your project ended, Jessika, because I think it's sort of symbolic of the process of like you're taking something that was adapting and with the wine field and the wheat field having to adapt and stay alive and revitalize itself, and landing on that is so symbolic because you were so resilient and adaptable, and now I've landed on a beautiful project that I think is going to benefit not only yourself, future students, but also just the community as a whole as well. So that's wonderful, Jessika. That sounds
Thank you.
really, really great. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to recognize we're over a little bit of time, I recognize there's a couple Q&A questions. I am going to provide the students' contact information afterwards if you all want to connect about that. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and just let you all know about what's sort of coming up. So if you are interested in learning more about the Newman Civic Fellowship Program or the mini grant project specifically, if your campus already has a Newman next year and you want to know how can they apply for this, or if you're really interested in potentially, maybe I could become the Newman if you're the student for your university, or if you're interested in potentially nominating a great student, we'd love to talk with you about it. So Morgan and I's contact information is on the screen, as well as our general fellows email. You can reach out to us and we'd love to set up a conversation with you all. As a follow-up, again, we just want to say thank you all so much for attending today. We will send a follow-up email with the presenters' resources, as well as access to the recording and other links as well in the coming weeks. But we thank you so much again for the gift of your time, and thank you again to the Allstate Foundation for believing in these students, for funding them students, and just for reminding us all that the reason I think we do this work and do this is that students truly are community leaders today and not just for the future. And so thank you all so much to the wonderful students who took this on, as well as to all the people behind the scenes who supported them. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day and have a safe and hopefully cooler summer coming up. Bye-bye.